Hello. Yeah, this stream was only planned couple of hours ago. Um, as I explained in the description, um, my last Friday stream was blocked for 2 days for copyright issues, and I made an appeal for the tracks that were problematic, as I usually do when that happens. And most of the time, this doesn't resolve anything. This time, it actually 2 days after, like as you can go back and see, everything was resolved. But the traction of that stream is gone, obviously, and as it has happened before when that happens. But I just thought about what else did that stream have in common with the other streams that I had that got blocked. And I was a bit surprised. I wasn't looking for that, honestly. But then I realized, oh shit, yeah, I was playing Muslimgauze. I was playing Muslimgauze and talking about Muslimgauze. Not to say that every time I play Muslimgauze or talk about it, something odd happens to the videos. But it is an odd coincidence. So I thought I wanted to talk a little bit deeper about Muslimgauze, and I thought also, if anyone wants to join, here's a link in the chat. Here, you just follow it if you want to come on screen and discuss Muslimgauze and adjacent topics with me. Everyone is welcome. So, hello, Rosé, hello, Sava, and whoever else is here. I played Muslimgauze this past Friday because there's a record that was released. This one, a box set featuring 4 albums and a mini album. The Extreme Years, 1990, 1994. And that was like a dream come true in a way. It was something that I had thought myself of, like, should we work on reissuing this ourselves on vinyl? I was talking about that with Rosé, who's in the chat here. Hello, Rosé. Hello, Sava. Hello, Rufan. And well, no, we didn't want to do that for our ego, just because we thought this needed to be done. And we wanted to have access to this music on a vinyl record, even if I personally had the CDs already. But yeah. Hello, Stefan. So this came and literally put an end to my Muslimgauze record collection. Or does it? Because as most of you who know of Muslimgauze know, Bryn Jones, the mind behind the project Muslimgauze, passed away in 1999, 25 years ago. And he already had like a significant body of work, like dozens and dozens of albums. But since he passed away, there's been even more. So much so that now the Muslimgauze canon has around 200 albums. Crazy, isn't it? So I already did a video about him about a year and a half ago, I guess, when something was happening to Gaza, which we completely forgot about since something happened to Israel, which is one of the key aspects of Muslimgauze. Hello, Thomas. we just started. So who is Muslimgauze? And why is he appealing to me? Why is he important to me and others? And what is going on? This is basically kind of what I was wanting to address and talk about here, and also introducing an idea of what is the Muslimgauze discography. What is a perfect Muslimgauze discography in a way? And Muslimgauze was born in the suburbs of Manchester in 1961 and started to release music in 1982. So he was 21 years old. He grew up in a kind of working class conservative background in the Thatcher years. Uh, he was into experimental music or industrial post-punk, new wave, etc. His crowd rock. So he was as much into Can, Damo Suzuki, rest in peace, and as he was into throbbing gristle, wire, and stuff like that. I believe one of the first times I heard of him was yeah, it was in the early 90s, and it was thanks to this compilation I had found, the Elephant Table album, a compilation of difficult music with great artwork. Huh? Well, the track listing is pretty phenomenal. You have what do you have here? Yeah, you have Portion Control, Chris and Cozy from Throbbing Gristle, Metamorphosis, Coil, Nurse's Wound, 4000 Blows, Constructivists, Lust Mord, two tracks of Muslimgauze, David Jackman of Organum, SPK, Nocturnal Emissions, Attrition, Legendary Pink Dots, Bourbonnais Squawk, with whom he actually didn't collaborate, but he released some tracks on the Recluse, which is also Bourbonnais Squawk's label. Industrial, post-punk, very left-wing. Sigillum S from Italy, Bushido, etc. So, not much information about him. Like, basically, this was when all of this was really in the underground, still in the underground. Here is the information about Muslimgauze. Not much. So first, the name Muslimgauze. Right before he started the Muslimgauze project, he released a couple of cassettes and a 7-inch under the name of EJ Oblique Graphs, which was kind of the same music as early Muslimgauze, tape music, industrial noise, etc., without necessarily the Muslim world or Middle East connection. He claimed later on that the founding moment that triggered the Muslimgauze projects was the 1982 invasion of Lebanon by Israel. And that's when he started to get informed about that, because, I mean, 82, no internet, Mancunian suburb. Okay, you have an interest in difficult music. You're not necessarily very political, or if you are, you're actually a little bit conservative, coming from a very anti-communist background. As you have to remember, back then it was the Cold War, and very good and very effective communication strategy by the West, and deservingly so. Like, there was horrible stuff happening in the Soviet dictatorships, absolutely. But that was also a way to turn a blind eye on the horrible stuff that was done not in the name of capitalism, but in the name of power that was profiting from war, from exploiting resources from non-Western countries, etc. So basically, I would argue that Muslimgauze project started out musically. Of course, it is art. It's not a political project, but if there is a theme, it is injustice or justice, depending on how you look at it. Thomas. No, exactly. That's the thing. Originally, Muslimgauze got connected with that scenes because of a couple of tracks on a few compilations that we just named: the Recluse compilation, the Elephant Table compilation, and an aesthetic kinship. But very soon he developed such a strong aesthetic and doxa that there was not really any room to water it or filter it through a wider scene spectrum. But at the same time, you could say that in many ways, Coil were fairly isolationist in their gay magic, occult stuff. Psychic TV with their whole obsession with Jim Jones, Charles Manson, yeah, etc. And again, if anyone wants to come on to discuss this, I put the link again. Everyone is welcome. This is not the usual Friday streams. But so he started to release a bunch of records on his own label and very few on others at first. All of these records have been compiled by the Vinyl on Demand in the Muslimgauze box set, as it's been commonly known. Now we have a second box set, which kind of changes things a little bit. But so yeah, you had, I believe this was the first album. Very, very minimal artwork, as you just have a sticker, Kabul, Muslimgauze. And yeah, Product Kinematograph Records, which was his first label, I believe, or his second one. And yeah. So I bought that in a shop in Paris in the 90s or so. I guess that Kabul, okay, it was exotic. Then it became more political with this. Hunting with an aerial eye. Why more politic? Also because of the names, but also because of the visuals, suddenly. You got one track called Under the Hand of Jaruzelski, which was the Soviet like general that was enforcing the Soviet power on Poland in the 70s, 80s. And you have people arrested. So basically, again, like a whole project about injustice, totalitarianism, which is a common thread in a lot of industrial music from the 80s. Like you have, of course, Leibach, you have Test Department, you have Deaths in June. Bonjour, Christophe. Yes, it is, I think so. And that's the thing. His relevance today couldn't be more important. That's one of the other points. This will be a bit disjointed, so I will feel even more at ease if someone comes up to join me in this disjointed aspect. Because there's, with Muslimgauze, there is the man and his motivations, and there's the music. The man is dead. And when I started to enjoy the music, I started to enjoy the music. There was no the politics of it were just a sort of varnish. It's not that I didn't care for it. My dad had to go wage war in Algeria for 3 years, conscripted by the General de Gaulle in the 50s, late 50s. Yeah, which was the biggest unification factor between right-wingers and left-wingers in France, the hatred of General de Gaulle for causing this totally pointless war. So that was probably the first exposure to this Muslim world for my family. Then growing up in France in the 80s, Arafat was a statesman, the leader of the POL, Palestinian, or the in French is the OPL, Organisation Palestinienne de Libération, or OLP, OLP. And so we would see this figure in his military clothes, but always with a smile and always like pushing ideas about like what was going on in the West. And as a teen, growing up in France, which has a very large post-colonial Arabic and Muslim population, that I won't lie, I had a few friends who came from that background, but very, very, very few, and that was almost incidental. Like there was a sort of cultural segregation. We were aware of it, and but not deeply, deeply aware of it. Probably more so than in the U.S. or in other countries where there was one doxa. And very early on, when you buy Muslimgauze records, CDs in the early 90s for the most part, like you get confronted with slogans that are very political. You get a whole paradigm around about the Middle East, because you have albums with names referencing events of the Palestinian, Iranian, Afghanian-Israel wars. You got names of cities, political slogans, and sure, there's like the shock factor, which is, as we discussed, very often present in industrial music, in punk music, in music that challenges the establishment, the authority. Sometimes it does it totally gratuitous, and sometimes it does so because of personal belief, however naive these might be or not. I would think that Muslimgauze, Bryn Jones' awakening was purely emotional. It didn't come from a political agenda. It becomes political very fast, obviously. But yeah, it is something that I guess any human being can feel, like when confronted with injustice. And then you start to dig for yourself, because that's the thing. When you think about political music, Bob Dylan, uh, even even Bruce Springsteen or early U2, whatever, like the politics are in the music, they are in the text, in the vocals. Muslim music is doesn't have any song. There's no lyrics. There are sometimes words like samples from radio stations, like chatter from the souk, the market, chatter from um, various random happen analysis, or calling to prayers, stuff like that. So it's kind of almost glitchy. It's like, when you're looking for a radio channel, and in an old FM radio, and you span through different frequencies and you get a little bit of a chatter. This is kind of how Muslimgauze human voice gets integrated. Sometimes a little more, like with great albums like Mullah Said, you get like more like religious chanting. Bryn Jones was Christian. He never traveled to any of these countries, and he didn't really know the language. To the best of my knowledge, he was totally non-religious, and he got some people attacking him for that. Like, who is this little guy traveling, like this white boy pretending to meddle in this shit show? And well, he had a stance that I understand, because I felt the same. Um, because when I was a touring artist with my previous band, we got offered to go to Israel, and I had a gut feeling that I didn't want to do that. And why? Because it's obscene. You don't travel as a tourist or for leisure to a country that is at war or occupied. Like, that is obscene, which is why, on a very much lesser degree, and you might totally disagree with me, it's fine. That's why I would have had big difficulties traveling to the US while Trump was in power. I know it's probably over exaggerated, and yeah. Hello, Dis. Thank you for being here. This is a friend of mine who, for those who don't know, who is Jewish and lives in Israel. So he has probably a different perspective, but him and I have talked about it before, and I hope it's fine. So yeah, like, it is problematic to fully embrace a conflict in which you have no personal stake. And yeah, that's interesting. So straight from the beginning, I think you have to discount that criticism of him, because he made a clever choice of not having lyrics, which means that he is not preaching. He's doing what anyone sensible who is passionate about a topic and who is an artist would do. He gives you clues. He puts out emphatic statements in an artistic context. He doesn't tell you what to do. He doesn't give you orders. Of course, you can feel a strong inclination in what he's doing, but he leaves it up for you to choose if you want to bother doing some research for yourself. Because let's be honest, the music of Muslimgauze is a sort of hypnagogic, sometimes distorted, reverbed, drony. Yeah, glitchy, percussive, ambient, melancholic, sad soundscape. It's not songs, it's like sonic environments. Like, if you get into a Muslimgauze track, song, whatever, after 1 minute you kind of get the gist of it. But you're in for the trip, basically, and the turns and curves. And that music has definitely no mechanical aspect that you could find in pop music. It is monotoneous, but not repetitive in the sense of pop music. And sure, Rufan, at one point, yeah, when there's a few people there, yes. And so yeah, the idea that someone who would be listening to Muslimgauze would suddenly become an anti-Semite is insulting. I remember back when he was alive, and there was a huge passion for his music amongst me and a bunch of friends I had. Um, he was so productive. Like, every other week there would be a new release of him at one point. That there was even ways to subscribe to his output. You would send 150 pounds to a label, and they would send you everything he did with them until your credit was exhausted. So we called that the Muslimgauze, like an imaginary illness of being addicted to Muslimgauze. And I remember back then, none of the people who I shared this interest and love for the music of Muslimgauze, critical love, because there's a lot of his music I don't like, solely for aesthetic reasons, not for political reasons or anything. Well, we never really talked about the political subtext uh, included in the packaging, in the titles. We just fully embraced this sort of hypnagogic, like, really trippy percussive, sexy music, like with a lot of syncopation, music of the desert. So you have the warmth, you have a minimalism that suits really for something sensual. It was a whole package for sure, but you didn't need to embrace the political aesthetics because that's what it was. Even if um, he embraced it fully, which we will never really know. Um, I mean, when you get a Muslimgauze record, are you scared? I can imagine that getting some music by White House, White House, Coil, um, even Psychic TV, Throbbing Gristle. Maybe it can be scary. Are you? Would you be scared listening to Muslimgauze? No. I mean, when I hear Benjamin Netanyahu's politics or the Iranian regime's objectives for Israel, that is scary. Whatever you think about it, it's. I can question the sentiment of Muslimgauze, the sentiments behind his music. I can question them. I can separate them. I can't afford to do that with Netanyahu and the current Iranian regime. What I would say is that the political aspect that had an impact on me with Muslimgauze would be creating more proximity, but not just with Palestine, but also with Israel and other countries, because the people who have a problem with Muslimgauze music, usually it is because of anti-Zionism, which now anti-Zionism, which some people want to put in the same category as anti-Semitism. Muslimgauze artwork heavily relies on graphic design, symbols, and uh, all of that, and names. But for the life of me, I try to be critical with myself. I can't find any sign, graphic, like images, that symbols of anti-Semitism. At the same time as he is being pretty honest about his stance on on the geopolitical situation there, he's also attacking the situation in Afghanistan, the colonialism and the war waged by the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, the invasion of Iran, or the attack of Iran by Iraq, and other conflicts that are not connected in any shape or form with Israel. Um, I remember an interview I read of him a long time ago that I reminded of recently. He was asked by a journalist if what would happen to his music if these conflicts that he referenced were solved, if peace happened. And his response was that, well, there will always be, there's still Sri Lanka, there's still Tibet, there's still Hawaii. So that's the reality, that's the truth there. The motivation is injustice, political Western colonialism and its greed and side effects. That is the thematic motor behind his drive, because that's one other thing that is so fascinating about him. It is that this guy who died at 37, 38, he lived with his parents. He did music in his bedroom. He had no romantic life. There was nothing. He lived solely for his music and for his drive. about injustices that he wanted to raise awareness about through his art. And if that's not fascinating in an artist, if that's not one of the aspects that could make us go in religion with an artist, I don't know what else is. Let me just check quickly what you guys were writing. Yeah. Yeah, well, we can talk about that. Yeah, because there's a lot of his stuff that I don't like, Frank, as well. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's true, Nathan. Yeah, there is some of his discography that I don't like for this specific reason that some like. So it's just again a matter of choice. Hello, Joe. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I guess maybe originally, but I don't see any cynicism in Muslimgauze. That's the big difference. And having met White House, there's nothing like scary about the guy, and the guy is actually a very nice and interesting guy to talk with. But yeah, so I said a lot of things now without playing music or showing records. So let me show a few records. First, I wanted also to show this record from Soviet France, a collective that is not at all political in that manner. They might be political, but more in a Don Cherry type of way. I'm not sure they would agree with that, but this is their album from 1989, Shouting Out the Ground, which relies heavily on like non-Western music samples into a very eerie, ambient, hypnagogic, yeah, musical paradigm world. And this record was extremely important for me when I discovered it. That was really opening my mind to a more global music. Now, thanks to The Wire having a category called global sounds, or that I think should be merged with outsider music, because who wants to be on the inside unless you're in it for the money, in a way. But yeah, that record was kind of really setting me on the path aesthetically for this music. But let me double check quickly this, where I put. Sorry, I thought I was completely prepared, but I wasn't. Because I wanted to prepare all my. Give me a few seconds, and it should be all right. If anyone wants to come up to discuss all that, you're welcome, by the way. Yeah, there it is. No. Oh. I'm back. Yeah, Frank, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know when would be a good time to do that, and it was so spontaneous. Maybe we do it another time again. But so Muslimgauze records. I would say that up until the early 90s, basically the music that you find in this, which is some of the absolute best of his, you have to go carefully. Some of the music has aged so. So I showed Kabul and Hunting for an Aerial Eye. Here is Coup d'Etat. Coup d'Etat, I think, was reissued in the Muslimgauze box set by Vinyl on Demand. On this one, well, still not completely evident what it's all about, but yeah, it's about violence, obviously. And the Middle East. Here is Muslimgauze Uzi, which is on Parade Amoureuse 1989, quite hard drums, not necessarily the best of his. This one is the first one, I think, really gives you the beginning of the Muslimgauze I love. Abu Nidal. Abu Nidal was a Palestinian or Lebanese, I'm not sure, freedom fighter, a terrorist, according of how you look at things. The tracks: Gulf War, Part 1, 2, 3, Abu Nidal, Green is the Color of the Prophet, Fatwa, plus the Gulf War remix, which was exclusive to a cassette compilation. So yes, this is one of the records that is part of the Muslimgauze box set on Vinyl on Demand. And I had the original, but I got this because it got this extra track that I really, really, really like. So in this case, I think the reissue is important to have. It's the only way to get that track on vinyl. Yeah. Well, come up and we talk about that. Then the records are not really sorted, but in the recently I showed this record that was released in the mid-90s, Veiled Sisters, which is a triple or quadruple LP. It was a double CD back then. Really, really good, hypnagogic, like field recording with some music, very moody. Muslimgauze music is very moody when it's not like tribal and rhythmical. Yeah, well, I'm giving you some Muslimgauze entertainment during work. Someone might get sacked, huh? Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was, and that's one of the things we almost said already. He's been dead for 25 years, and the music is still fascinating because he managed to achieve a sort of timelessness in most of his music. Like the prime example would be this. One of his last release when he was alive, Mullah Said, I've talked about it at length. This is, in my opinion, his masterpiece from start to finish. Absolutely perfect. It was originally released on CD in 1998, and then in 2000, I think 2016 or 17 on vinyl by Staalplaat. This is one of the records I've listened to the most in my whole life. It is just a perfect record that really gives you a very a sense of beauty with this monotonous music, with these Middle East harmonies and sparse drums, with perfect control of reverb and very discreet use of human voice. It's very effective. This was issued recently, a few years ago as well, and is in the same vein. Well, it's all written in Arabic, so what's the name of that again? Someone help me. Um, mm, oh, Can Yunis. Yeah, this is very similar to Mullah Said. I would say not as good because there's a hierarchy, but yeah, if you have the Muslimgauze, this is a record worth getting, especially if you're in that side of his music. I'm putting them now not in any specific order. The Unfinished Mask. Now, this was released, I believe, in 2003, or I'm not sure. Um, but before, there was this great renewed interest in him. So it kind of fell through the cracks. It originally was released on vinyl. And that's one of the good ones. Long tracks, more ambient. This is worth seeking out. Now, this one has fantastic artwork as well, again. This is Eye for an Eye. Well, pretty dramatic, yeah. And yeah, well, this one also has these long form tracks that really takes you to another world. That you can ignore the political aspect of it if you want. That's up to you. That's your choice because the music is so strong. This one, Marseille, quite odd artwork. This was released on Soleilmoon, so in the US. Marseille, why Marseille? Marseille is the Muslim capital of France, in a way. I don't know if it was named because of that, but that's how I um, I understand it. This one is actually called Syringia, but then it was released under the name of Marseille, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you know about it. This one is quite different. This one is more rhythmical, but it's not the kind of distorted tribal rhythmical. This is kind of a proto dubstep record. If you're into Burial, you or early Scorn or mid 90s Scorn, this will be shocking. This will be surprising. I believe you can still find this for a reasonable price. This one, Nadir of Purda, which is yeah, a clear album, a mini album. It's like 6 tracks, if I remember correctly. This is really great, like heavy on the kind of mystical, eerie, very musical aspect with like droning pads and zithering percussions. This is beautiful, and not one of the records of his that is most uh, lauded. This one, Salam Aleikum Bastard. This one was released about 4 years ago, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago, and it's good. It's good. It's also one of these records that is more. It's kind of in between ambient and more tribal, not distorted, but yeah, this one is worth getting. This one is interesting. AP reworks Muslimgauze. AP is, I forget his name, but he's a Swedish guy, a mastering engineer, great one, who did his own remixes of Muslimgauze. I believe he did 2 volumes of that. This is actually really good. So it's not directly Muslimgauze, but it is like a more like, basically imagine like a an uncountable artist who signed to a major label, and they have an art director whose work is to channel the essence of him and do like the official take of him. This is kind of like that, and it goes in different directions. This one, Gun Aramic Part 2, also released fairly recently on Aquarelle. This is also very tribal, ambient, like eerie. Now this one, Uzima Mood, I got it back then, 1998. This is not really my cup of tea. This one I keep to be reminded of it. This is more of his like really tribal, distorted beats, and I personally don't like it at all. I still like the artifact in a way, but I can do without this one. When he died, Staalplaat started a program of archival reissues of his stuff, and this was the first one, Cobra Head Soup. All tracks from 1997. The packaging is great. It's a double LP. I personally don't like it. I bought it back then because you bought it without knowing what you were gonna get. I kept it because it's Muslimgauze, but this one I will eventually let go. It is a little bit on that like distorted beats side of things. And this one was released more recently. Jackal the Invisible. This is a compilation on Staalplaat. Great sealscreen cover and sewn jacket. This is interesting because you have tracks ranging from 1987 to late 90s, and even some tracks that were like not finished but finished after he passed away. And this goes in many different directions, but this is actually good. This is worth getting, and it's a fairly good introduction, I would say, to his music, even if I would urge you to seek out Mullah Said. So in a sense, and then there's also these two little nuggets. This little 7-inch Nile Quartra, absolutely sublime. 2 tracks, just perfect. Really great, beautiful music. I listen to this very often. And this, which came as a picture disc on the Syntactic label in 1996. This is my favorite Nurse's Wound, Muslimgauze record. 2 tracks, just perfect. I put this on the same level as Mullah Said, and but this one is, they only did 100 copies of it, so good luck. Still possible to find, but not cheap. And with all of that, I would say that this is, this is. I don't need much. I don't need more Muslimgauze records than all of that with the recent box sets. Now, as I was saying, like you have this different style of his, like the aggressivity, the distortion, the reverb, the words, the glitches, the drones, the percussions, like these are like colors that he paints his sound fields with, and so you can choose. He has over 200 releases. He has collaborations with Rootsman, who does like digidub. They're pretty good. City of Gene, it's good. I have a few remixes he did with them. There's this collaboration he did with Sons of Orca that I played a few weeks ago. That is fantastic, very rhythmical, a bit different than the usual Muslimgauze stuff, but still lots of very interesting syncopation. And it's it's just a shame that thinking of the sheer intensity of his output, because the numbers speak for themselves, that um, his geopolitical leanings affect his audience or his potential, his market in a way. But again, the music is already odd enough that it doesn't really matter in a way. But the guy literally started from emotion in 82, and so that's 16 years up to he passed in January 1999. Of course, his political views of the situation evolved and grew and got more sophisticated. He was a disciple of Noam Chomsky, who is not an anti-Semite. I would hope everyone agrees. But yeah, well, I just wanted to show these records and also show how this helped me as well to let's see, to embrace more music in a very potent manner. I had prepared a few things. Let's see if I can find them. What did I do? This always happens. Records disappearing in my little chaos. Here it is. I remember when my mother was hearing Middle East music, and she didn't like it just because the frequencies, the harmonies, and the monotonous aspect of it didn't suit her. I understand that when you like, it's like if you grew up with ABBA, you're not going to enjoy Ornette Coleman and Anthony Braxton straight up without any transition. Of course, for me, monotony was introduced to me through the music of Eric Satie and Debussy and other stuff, and then of course some electronic music and techno, etc. But let me just check a little bit what you guys have been writing. I see a lot of messages that I missed. Yeah, the craze around him. Yeah, but he was. Yeah. In a way, yeah, I agree. The thing is that he made very few public appearances. He did a few live shows, but like it was basically him accepting almost reluctantly to do that. That was not really what he was interested in. Again, if anyone wants and can come up, here's the link so we can discuss this directly here. Okay. Muslimgauze was important in this process because he gave people who were curious a reason to question the narrative that had been established, and he did that with words without words or preaching. Yeah, absolutely. The Mullah Said and this. Hello, Kaylee. Assassin. Okay, interesting. Assassin is quite distorted and beat based, right? There you go. I did quite a lot of that in my video on Friday, Rufan, where you were missed, actually. Muslimgauze also reconfirms the important role art and music play in bringing about changes. Unfortunately, there aren't as many of these voices as one would hope for. Maybe we don't need much more, actually, Sean. As we found him, he found us. Um, when I talk about music on my channel, and I often say that what I'm looking for in music is something to challenge me. So that can mean many different things. It's always the same in a way, but it can go in many different directions. And I guess that's why we gravitate around artists like Muslimgauze, Nurse's Wound, Coil, Soviet France, and many others. Um, Even stuff like Stereolab, in a way that challenges form, meaning, history. Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Bomb the Bass, first single by Bomb the Bass, also challenging the establishment with the smiley and coming from V for from the Watchmen, uh, Alan Moore. Sorry, I'm just reading your comments, trying to catch up. Yeah, see, I have a couple of Jewish friends who are not at all anti-Zionist. They're not Zionist either, but like they have absolutely zero problem with his music. It's art, and art can be challenging and provocative, and sometimes makes you feel like unsure or uneasy. Mm. I like that way. Well, that's not totally true, though. What's interesting with this box set is that it features his music that was produced by Richard Jones. I always forget the name of the boss of Extreme. Sorry about it. Like, let me double check that quickly, just to give him the respect he deserves. Rich Roger Richards, who co-created Extreme, the label. So he was distributing post-punk, experimental music, industrial music in Australia, in Melbourne, and he started his label. And he was distributing the cassettes of Muslimgauze, and he in '87 he contacted him, and they started a conversation, and he offered to release a record. At first, he was thinking of doing a reissue of some old stuff, and then they settled for an album. And they decided on a plan of 5 records, one each year. And as he saw that Bryn Jones, Muslimgauze, was extremely prolific and quick, fast in his production, he thought, let's slow down a little bit. Like when you go to the studio, make one track. And then when you're finished with the one track, you step away. And then you go back later or to another studio, another place, and do another track. You may have a theme for that record, and we'll help you craft it if you need. And that's what they did. He also helped him hire musicians. Bryn Jones played the percussions. Like, people think that he's only about sample. That's not true. He was an actual musician. He was maybe not a master of percussion, but he was good. But what Extreme offered him was access to even more musicians, even more like masters of this, true musician masters of percussions, and not just percussions, but so he hired them as session musicians for Bryn Jones for the albums that were released on Extreme, which are featured in that box. That was the most luxury period in his output. He also hired a music engineer to record it. That was a really good guy. Like, his name escapes me, but he worked on like top 10 UK chart stuff. Yeah, and had a great studio to mix it, etc. And then they had like a great mastering engineer as well. But so yeah, the reason why he stopped doing stuff with Extreme was because Extreme realized also that because of the urgency in his music and in his creative drive, he needed to put out stuff all the time. And that's not what Extreme wanted to do. They had a different perception on art. Um, Roger, uh, I'm sorry, his name escapes me all the time. He visited him in Manchester to get a better understanding of him, and he realized that he disagreed with him on various political topics. He agreed with some as well. Basically, I guess they were less informed as well as we are now. But in the end, he thought that doesn't matter. Like, this is important. Let's do it well. And the first album was very, very well received. The second one included like a dedication to the victims, um, the people killed by the Israeli army in at one specific, like a Black December event. Like I'm not sure I remember the details. You can look it up, and of course that stirred a few very negative critique in the press. Suddenly, like people were discovering that, even if the clues were there. Yeah. Sure, sure. Yeah. Ah, amazing, Ryan. That's really cool. Yeah, and that's the thing. Anti-Zionism is, in essence, anti-colonialism, and that's the problem that Israel has. That being said, to be fair, the reverse is not necessarily always true, in the sense that Zionism, is not necessarily colonialism. In a way, it is, but I think it's more nuanced. I can totally see some people being Zionist and managing, even if it's a little bit of gymnastics, disconnecting it from colonialism. I don't think that our friend this here is a colonialist in his heart. We could discuss that at length, but yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because indeed I got into Munirbashir because when I heard his music, I heard echoes of the music of Muslimgauze. And I played a Munirbashir record, another one, on my latest stream last Friday. It was so vivid at times. So I was thankful that I had this kind of entry door through Muslimgauze to a whole world that here in the West we easily ignore. We so easily ignore. And yet we have created the tools to investigate and embrace it. This is a magnificent box set of 6 LPs, in this case themed by instruments rather than by geography. But if you want to go by geography, you can go before the Western world's geography with Syria. Chant religieux de l'Islam, religious chanting of Islam. Syria, as a region, had all the prophetic religions. So, Sœur Marie Kérouz, that's Lebanon, Syria, in a way, historically. Iran, or more like even before Muslimgauze, like kind of personal take on the folklores from these regions. Chant et musique arabe d'aujourd'hui, of today, like without necessarily a specific geography. Um, I have like so many records like that. Um, and here's more music from Iran. And here is more music from Iran, but not necessarily in Iran. Le Tar by, what's his name again? Jamish Shemirani. I hope it maybe sure watch this. But the Arab world and music world extends far beyond the Middle East. You have in the Filipino, you have as well Muslim music. Here, this one that came out on a Swedish label, absolutely amazing. Also, more music that is more of like Indo-Arab origin. Uh, and one of the ways a lot of the West got introduced to Middle East music, belly dance, which is a mishmash of Lebanese, Egyptian, uh, Orientalism, which is basically what Muslimgauze managed to avoid. He doesn't use Middle East sounds to um, co-opt the Middle East aesthetic. He creates his own music in a global world. When I was saying earlier that I got the opportunity to ask myself, do I want to go to Israel as an artist? And told myself no. That was also at another like very philosophical turning point for me. When you're a techno artist and you tour the world and played all the underground clubs of the various countries, you realize very quickly that you will probably only get the one chance to play there, because these places they can't sustain to have you again and again and again unless they are like the big clubs in Europe like Berghain, Fabric, etc., because they want to show that they know about the new stuff that is cool. So that is one aspect that makes you realize how small the planet is, how limited we are in terms of space, how close we are to each other. And Muslimgauze music, I guess, is part of that. It's, in a way, it is globalist music, in the sense that it really plays very different aesthetics. Like his Arab-centric music made in a country, the UK, that has a very strong Muslim population, would not appeal in the 80s and 90s to older um, Muslims of British appropriation or culture or whatever. But it did speak with younger ones, with the violence sometimes, or with the psychedelia, the drugs or whatever. And that is interesting to me as well. How much more so than like ethno music from the 80s and 90s that sounds horrible now, so dated, sedated, so dated. Well, Muslim goes for the most part, when he wasn't like, when he learned who he was, and when he learned to make music and not just do like noisy collage of industrial sounds, then it became something else. And of course, because he did that in the 80s, it was not just a vacuum. It was not just hearing the news. Revolutionary chants from Oman. I mean, the cover says it all. And here you got the geography as well. when was this released? This was released. Had to. I can't find it here, but late 70s. Like the liner notes are from 77. So, yeah, and I mean, also Islam, Muslim world is not just in the Middle East, as we talked. You can even find it in music that is not necessarily Islamic or Arabic. In Italy, this band on Auf der Nil, ADN, Andreolina, there's a huge Middle East aspect to the music. I'm sure you can find it as well in bands like in some tracks by Dead Can Dance, SPK, and all that. But I guess, yeah, I guess we get the idea now. I'm not sure I have much more to add unless we start to discuss together. No problem. Yeah, that's true. There's often that in his releases. Yeah. Yeah, there was that. I have a bunch of Indonesian like surf music that is pretty fun in that way. I'm good. Thank you. Of course, like, oh, that is for DJ Mr. Joel, but here, yeah, I did a stream about that, like new high, old, high rebalance. Yeah. What I would say though, a bit critical, like if you look at the most political aspect of Muslimgauze art is, it's not the music, it is the artwork and the names. But a lot of time he would use images of violence or political movements that are also part of something that is not very often connected with music on with release, but which is like photojournalism. It's these journalists who go in areas in the world where there is conflict and they take pictures that become, barometers or lighthouses for us in the cozy, peaceful Western world, and who shape history and our sense of history. But at the same time, we still have the choice. We still have the choice to interpret them however we want, or study as well. That's a great question, Brendan. There are some people who are against him, who deem him as anti-Semitic, who make that point, that basically the whole shock factor of it attracts him an audience. But if you go to the logical end of that point, that would mean that the music is not good enough, that you would be only interested from a teen angst perspective, right? So I don't think it's a valid point. I mean, in some cases, I'm sure some people got into it because of that, like lazily, and then if they stayed, then it's for something else. All right. Uh, oh, lots of comments. I'm so behind. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, but the thing is, again, there's no message. The message is, if there is one, is not in the music and is still for you to interpret. As if you go back to the beginning of this, wow, I've talked alone for 75 minutes, man. That's bad. Um, it's well, go look back at it or come on and and so we can have the conversation so I don't feel too monolithic in my rhetoric. Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult for me, this, as I explained, but I wish I could, and I wish I would come to you um, maybe sometime. All right, I think I'm getting to the close to the end of the the comments. No, I don't know this one specifically, or maybe I do, but I don't remember the name. But I know this, what you're talking about, and this is amazing. All right, all right. Hello, Vinyl Pants. Well, I if you watch back the whole thing, the whole stream, I hope I helped out to deconstruct a few of the issues. It's not. I didn't do that stream to justify Muslimgauze. I hope for those who watch it since the beginning, I hope you will give me the benefit of doubt that I'm trying to be objective about it, um, even if I totally acknowledge my personal, not leanings, but personal conclusions, judgments about things there. But yeah. Hmm. Hello, Rich. Yeah. So yeah, this who's still here, what do you think? As someone who lives in Israel, who was born there, who has listened to Muslim Ghosts, do you think we had like a fair presentation, discussion of the potential issues around Muslim Ghosts? And of course, like I showed you my choice releases of him. If you want to buy and listen to more of his stuff. But yeah, uh, I can't be the judge of myself in this regard. Yeah, no, not really. Like that was just the starting point. That was why I did it today, Brandon. And I don't know for sure that we know it can happen easily. So why not there? And um, I mean, it's timely. There's this box set that we discussed more in detail. That is fantastic. That um, out of the 5 albums on the box in the box set, 4 will be released individually. One already has Intifaxa, and I urge you to listen to these records and get them if you like them. If you want to start with nurses with Muslim Girls on vinyl, I'm sorry, that is happening way too much. Um, but yeah, it's starting a conversation, even if I'm the only one on screen right here. So maybe we can do the conversation with you on your channel, Brandon, or on Alex, or whoever wants to have it. Um, but yeah, I think I'm done for now. So unless someone wants to come on right now with uh, a few points or to discuss or questions, I put the link in the chat here one final time. Yeah. Yeah. I want to do them quite spontaneously as well. Like basically, when I had the idea of doing that, I did my community post, which was like 4 hours ago, I guess. And thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I went back and read a little bit what people have been saying about Muslimgauze, pro, against, and middle. And that was interesting. And yes, yes, vinyl pants. The box set just came out. It's sold out, so you will have to find it either in the second-hand market or the few places that have managed to get it, namely Soleilmoon in the US. But the content of it will be released individually apart from one LP. And here we have Rufan.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you, my imaginary son?
I'm starting to get cold here.
Oh, crap. Look, I have
But
this nice scarf here I wore just for you.
nice.
I wanted to ask you about this album. Now, you were saying that some of it wasn't so great, or it was a little disturbing, or that you didn't like it. And what I kept hearing was one word: the beat. The beat. The beat.
Yeah, like he had basically Muslimgauze has three or four kinds of styles that are all
Okay.
connected, but sometimes he has one style where the emphasis is on distorted drums with a
Mm-hmm.
very prominent beat. These records are less about mood and atmosphere. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
hello, Dis.
Hey, what's
Jeez.
up?
Oh,
Hi.
Very, very cool to see you, my friend.
Good
wow.
too.
This is
I'm
the
good,
best
man.
morning.
Yeah.
Just quickly, Kaylee, yes, Dina Abdelwahed. I have her first album. It's interesting music. It's not always successful in my opinion. I should have thought about it as well. Yeah.
What I was thinking about, I wanted to bring this up because I think it's kind of important. When we hear dissonant beats, I mean, why did people, if you look at the Native Americans, okay, for example, when they start their drumming, they they do the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then all groups did that. And then they expanded on it, okay? And I think when you end up at the point where you've got a real dissonant beat, it brings it really deeply home how disturbing certain things can become, and that makes us uncomfortable.
For sure. Like I can only assume that like one of the reasons why he used to really distort these beats. Usually, when he did them, they were kind of like hip hop breakbeat, very sparse as well. Like not much because there's no singing, so it's
Hmm.
instrumental and some atmosphere, but not really any real melodies either. So basically, what you got it was like heavily distorted, aggressive beats. And
Yeah,
back
like
then,
if
I guess
you're
it
at
was.
war, right? And
Sorry.
your heart's going like crazy, like you're in war.
Maybe so, but
What do you
I think
think,
also
Dees?
it had to do with what was going on at the time, not just political in his political views of that he was connected with music, but also with music itself. Like instrumental hip hop was new, like mixing it with breakbeat and industrial sounds like Midbeat Manifesto. That was fairly new. So he was also experimenting then with the aesthetics of the time, besides his own little corner and niche in sound. And I bought some of these records back then because they were new. So you basically had to confront yourself to this to know how you felt. It took some time. It's after with some distance that this side of his discography I've decided to let go.
What did you think of what I said, Dees?
right now.
About the beat and about the dissonance and the
Yeah,
disturbance.
I was gonna say that I actually, Stunty, I listened while during the stream. I listened to to a tune called Hamas Cinema Gaza Strip, and it could have been used in a Hollywood film, like in a Black Hawk Down or something.
Oh
Like,
my
Yeah,
god.
but instead, it could be in a war movie in the Middle East. So
yeah,
No
I like
doubt.
it. It's
yeah,
not his intention probably, but it's good. You know.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even want to
That's
hear about that stuff right now. I'm terrified.
there's this guy in the U.S. Who makes noise music under the name of Purient, who had a side project, techno project called Vatican Shadow, that was basically, in my opinion, a bit of a cynical take on Muslimgauze. He was basically redoing Muslimgauze to a new audience who was not aware of Muslimgauze, so he could like, this is a good concept because. But he came from an American perspective, more like a Marlon Manson, like
Sure.
the shock factor. I think, I
Hmm.
believe. I don't know is in his heart, and it's true that because of the whole imagery and the fact as the music can be sometimes a little bit violent,
Hmm.
you could think that this is cynically made for like kind of the teen angst uh, audience. Yeah, but
Well, when I was a teen and had all that angst, we were listening to Jethro Tull, okay? I mean, that was whoa.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know it sounds funny, but in the earlier days, the Vietnam War, my dad was in the Air Force for the Korean thing, and then we had just come out of World War II, and so we had veterans everywhere, and then the poor guys from Vietnam, and we were wearing armbands and protesting, and I was pretty young. I was only about 13, 14 years old.
Hmm.
But we didn't have we knew all the military songs. We would sing them all and uh, keep morale up.
Yeah,
I,
and
I don't know what it was good for, but I don't know. I'm just wondering.
it's a very different time also right now, because if you think about what you're talking about, like the civil wars and the colonial wars of the 50s, 60s,
Hmm.
70s, and then the Cold War of the 80s and the post
Hmm.
Cold War of the
Yeah.
90s, do we like it feels that the people who needed and who wanted the protest songs, the political music from the time, that doesn't
Hmm.
really exist anymore. You still have the
No,
people who
it,
don't want
it,
it at all,
yeah.
but the people who wanted it back then, like who would
Hmm.
like create a movement. Can you imagine anyone managing to create an artistic movement around in music around the political movement in
Frankly, right now,
2024?
no. Not now. I don't know. It's like everybody's on fluoride these days, okay? That's what they put in Paxil. Okay. And I'm serious. You think I'm kidding? It just takes the will right out of me. It's like, all right, come on in, open up the refrigerator, just have at it. I mean, we're being invaded right now. So is England. Um,
You know,
Everything everywhere is a mess.
like that's a very good point. And that's why more like surrealistic music, more like post-industrial music is quite healthy and interesting, because it shows you like when you decontextualize sound or art from its religious uh, information propaganda
Right.
nature, then
Yeah,
you
it's all
realize
that's all
that
propaganda, in my opinion.
yeah, no, but like it's everything. It's also when it's legitimate news, like there is like sounds that we have been groomed to associate with certain types of event in a way that
Trumpets,
is totally
trumpets.
natural.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, in a way it should be difficult if you look at the world how it is now and art. Normally it should be difficult for someone who just spent like an hour and a half talking about Muslim goes knowing what we know about his motivations, to then talk with this who is in Israel and born there, who has a picture of him with Netanyahu. It should be difficult,
Yeah.
and in a way it is. But I guess we can do it. We can manage to do that anyways, thanks to acknowledging, thanks to surrealism for me at least, or that helped me to decontextualize things so that I'm aware of some of my own biases. I'm aware of others, and hopefully by talking about that with empathy, people who have their own biases kind of accept that they might have. Maybe they don't see it directly because, like, it's much more difficult to see it when you're in a war zone yourself than me in a cabin
Well,
on an island in the
yeah,
forest in Sweden. I have all the
yeah, I
time in
know.
the world.
Yeah, I know of a couple of guys who were killed last night,
Mm.
and they won't be waking up again, and you won't hear about it on the news either.
Yeah, that reminds me of how we are. Yeah, one by one after the other, we who are still alive have to see them pass away until one day when we won't.
Mm.
You know, people essentially don't change. We think we really change. I've started to see this generation as one that is so pounded on that, you know, you get all these tattoos and piercings. God, I knew this one gal, she was pierced everywhere, including down in her nether regions, and maybe had 5 or 6 down there. And I was like, she couldn't feel anymore. She was so bombarded by what was going on in the world that this is how I interpreted watching her, you know, inflict pain on herself so that she could actually feel something.
I'm 46. I remember when I was like 16, 17, 20, when I could
Mhm.
still have, like, be moved by art or by the discourse by artists. Like, okay, I'm gonna give my next 2 years to going in South America and fight or whatever. Like, very naive, of course, thoughts, but at the same time, how a sense, however misguided or not, it would be, how a sense of justice slash injustice would would drive you. And when you live in the Western world, I guess the big project of the Western world has been to
Sorry.
yeah has been to sever us from these kind of feelings of, like, having young people feel that there might be causes that are greater than themselves.
Mm-hmm. You know what I wanted to do once? I mean, this was a big deal for me. I wanted to travel from reservation to reservation with my massage table, and I wanted to work on the old and infirm and injured in exchange for stories, which I would then write down and compile into a book. And unfortunately, I was never able to do that, and I don't know if I will ever be able to do that, but it's still a dream. I was like, I
Mm.
want to collect those stories.
Yeah, and
And to me, you
I
know, to be able to give
mm,
healing to somebody else, because I've already done it. I mean, I know it can be done. I was at the
mm.
Coronado State thing in New Mexico, and there were these ladies selling pots and bread that they made at home. And so I started talking to them. And next thing you know, I was working on all of them, and they were telling me all their problems. And then my sister wanted to leave, and she had bought all these pots, which I couldn't afford. But I got to know the people. And next thing I
Well,
know, they were giving me bread and cookies and pots.
mm,
I mean, it was
I
the
guess.
most amazing exchange. If we could all just kind of
Mm.
figure that part of it out, we're not different.
But beyond that, like, even beyond that, even if what you just said is pretty global in many ways, when I
Yeah.
was sharing my experience of like realizing how small, how limited the world is in geography, how we're already stepping in on each other. So if you think about like causes that are bigger than us, there it increasingly feels that there is only one cause anymore. That because like if you don't see how closer we are from each other, both geographically, culturally, etc., increasingly so. If you don't see that, I, uh, yeah, then
Well, well, look what we're doing
yeah,
right
it's a
now. I'm in
problem.
California, you're in Sweden, and he's in Israel. That's different, huh?
Yeah, but just the idea of like what could like when you got like people like Greta Thunberg, who people like to mock, and I'm sure there are reasons to think that she's ridiculous and instrumentalized, but like still, at least when I think of Muslimgauze, whose music didn't like make me think one way or another, it just was like, okay, someone here feels that deeply about something, so
Mm-hmm.
if I like his music, I owe him to do my research so that I
Mm-hmm.
can at least have an educated or semi-educated opinion about it, or like even like feeling about it. It doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with him. It could
Mm-hmm.
end up as that, but I'm just thinking like nowadays there's the fact that he passed away 25 years ago, and that as someone was saying that like the hype around him right now is a little bit much. I was there when there was the hype around him in the 90s in a very limited niche way. Now, uh, of course, it's much more because to do an object like that, there wouldn't have been the money back then to do that. So I get it, but also that tells you like, shit, if we need people like Muslim goes to feel uh, to find someone who is political about his music, namely someone who's dead for the past 25 years, whose message is like ridiculed and attacked violently by most media, rightfully or not. I'm not judging. I have my opinion, but that's a different, a separate thing. Like, where, where am I finding that nowadays? Where am I finding any artists? Like, I have nothing against poor Taylor Swift, who must
Oh,
feel on top of
please.
the
She
world right now.
destroys every man she goes out with.
No, don't say that. We don't know her personally. We have no idea about that. Like you might have your feelings or your intuitions, but in the end, she seems to have a political impact on society in the U.S. right now. That people will judge however they want. But is it something that inspires you? I mean, and I think it's her popularity that inspires you. It's not her music. Uh, that's my feeling. Like,
Yeah, I'm not really
yeah,
inspired by her. I don't listen to her. And
yeah.
that's by choice. But what inspires me is to walk into a forest. And when I was a little girl, that's where I spent most of my time. And when I was old enough, I joined a 4-H group. You might not know what that is. They usually raise animals and they show them off as see how beautiful they are and all that. So when I was 16, I had a 4-H group, but it was completely different from any other 4-H group in my state or anywhere else for that matter. I had boys and girls together, and we did ecology.
Mm.
We went around, and there were these ancient cemeteries that needed to be cleaned up. The kids raised enough money to buy 350 seedlings, and we planted 350 trees. That
Yeah,
is an art in itself.
yeah,
That if people, I'm not gonna yell at anybody. I'm gonna take a little seed and put it in a pot and grow it and then find a place to put it.
Here, Sean writes, that is the proper role of music or art, to make us think. It's more than entertainment. That is not true. That what Sean is writing here is purely rooted in culture and geography and time. I'm not saying I disagree with him. I'm just saying that before the 14th century, there was not really much room for art to be what Sean is describing. Until the Renaissance, art had very specific functions. It was information, propaganda, religion,
That's true.
and power, might, establishing
Right.
and reinforcing. Like the idea of art for art's sake is something that is kind of also the root, the seed of leisure society. Like suddenly people having time in their life for more than just hunting food and chopping wood for survival. That is a
There's
concept
art
that
in caves that ancient people made with hands. You can see
yeah,
them.
but
I've been
but
able to
they
yeah.
up until the Renaissance, art, no one did art for art's sake. There was like either an economical or survival factor or like power factor to it. I mean, you will find exceptions, obviously, and people who managed to sneak in an intention that was artistic and philosophical. But in essence, there was not really room for that, just because of the way people lived and had to survive. Very
There's
few
so
people
much
had
more
wait,
than
wait,
you
wait, wait.
know,
Very few
Stunty.
people had money or time. Time was the biggest commodity in so many ways, even more so than
I
money, because
understand.
most people uh, were not even allowed to own money because
Yeah.
uh, all their work was taxed for like being allowed to live in that place, being allowed to hunt in that place so that they could find food, etc. So when art becomes art and then becomes political, that is also a later development, in my opinion. And so if the role of music and art is to make us think, and that it's the intention of the artist, that is, I think, a very limited time in human history, and one that is disappearing, one that is going away rapidly. There are like musical aspects, technical aspects of music that are clues to that, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of what kind of rhythm we favor now, that like when were they around. Like we obviously all know that right now we are gonna have, if we don't already have, less than our parents for this and me.
Mm-hmm.
We have less money, we have to work more to make less money. We have illusions of it's maybe easier to travel, maybe easier to communicate with the internet and all that, but are much more shaky than the ones of most of our parents. Now I'm talking from Western world privilege, obviously. um, but like in the curve of the pinnacle of social rights in the world right now on earth, the people who have the most social rights are getting less and less so. So it's maybe evening, it's maybe going up in certain places on earth, but the places where we got like really high, it's going down. And I think you can see traces of that in music if we make a parallel of how music is becoming increasingly again functional rather than art for art's sake. But that's only my opinion. I'm curious
Yeah. No. What do
for
you
Sean's
think,
opinion on
Reese?
that.
What's your view on this?
Uh, I'm sorry, I wasn't
I,
focused.
I'm sorry I put you right on the spot, but I always love to hear your take on things.
Um, I want to say that I really agree with Dreamscape about, it's not a propaganda, but they make us not fear, but I mean, if you hear like, how can I say this, like tribal drums, then you think of Michael Jackson. You don't think about. I don't. I can't. Sorry, I don't have a good thought about it. But there's a like a way of making you think via Western culture. And what Muslimgauze, sorry, is that how you pronounce his name, Muslimgauze?
Yeah, yeah.
What he did is interesting. Does his music have lyrics? I didn't listen to her.
No,
No.
never,
Yeah.
never.
So it's very interesting, and it makes you like. I mean, he was a Western. He was British, right?
Yep.
But I think he did, from what I listened, he managed to capture something authentic about the culture that he wasn't a part of. And from what you said, he never visited, right? He was never
Yep. Yep.
in Palestine/Israel or whatever you wanted to say. Yeah.
See, almost the same picture as the one that Muslimgauze used. Music and rhythm,
Yeah.
which is basically like it's basically a music festival. Like you have Peter Gabriel, John Hassel, Peter Hamill, Holger Shukai from Cannes, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, Pete Townsend, XTC, drums of Make Buko from Burundi, David Byrne. It's a benefit double LP for World of Music, Arts and Dance, the WUMAD Festival. That's the Peter Gabriel thing. Like we forget that WUMAD is an acronym for World of Music, Arts and Dance. And that sounds so far ago. That sounds like something and concerns that are so far away from us right now.
I don't feel that far away from it. We used to have festivals up at a hot spring, and we would have these wild dances, and we had a fantastic band called Pandemonium. They're fantastic. And it was a ritual, almost like a ritual. And everyone got going, and it was passionate. It was energizing. I mean, we all felt like a part of the universe after.
It's funny, it makes me think of Killing Joke, the post-punk band, who I think it was in 93, 92 or 93, they recorded an album called Pandemonium in the Gizeh pyramid in Egypt.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow. I think Slayer did it too, right? Slayer did.
I think there's something rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah, my friend's name is Sharon Knight. I know her personally, and they called the band Pandemonium, and I don't know where they've gone from here. I have a few of their tracks laying around. Everybody I know who's a musician ends up giving me their CDs. So.
Oh, Stunty, you want to read the comment first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, yeah. Do you want to read it?
I wanted to mention Jean-Michel Jarre.
Yeah.
You know, his music, I think, he brings a lot of culture, and he makes his super duper performances in the pyramids in China. So I think he's a Frenchman. I think maybe you've met him. I don't know, but
I was in school with his kids.
Oh, really?
He was living in the city next to the one I grew up with.
Oh, I really think that Souvenirs of China, his album from '81, I think that was really, I think, really brought some kind of it was important culturally. It was a great album too, in the context of
And Sean, I know that I was basically just like jumping from your point and using your valid point to expand on it a bit dramatically, maybe. Anyways, guys, it's been Yeah. Wow. Almost.
149, 23,
Yeah.
25.
What can I say more about Muslimgauze right now? As I said in the beginning, last year, me and Jose, we were thinking about doing some reissues together, and we were thinking about the four of the five albums in this that we have literally made a list of. Like this, we want to work on. I'm not at all jealous that someone else did it. I'm just grateful, actually,
I
because
hear you. Yeah.
because it's I wouldn't say that this music is important. It is important to me because it was instrumental in a few things. But for me, it's kind of peripheral to what I care the most about. I really, really enjoy the records and love these records, but it's um, it's also nice to not have just one thing, isn't it? Like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
into music and you
Mm-hmm.
know who you are, you know what your core values or
Mm-hmm.
fandoms are, and you have other ones at the same time that you have different sets of hierarchies, and Muslim
Mm-hmm.
Goes managed to be his own hierarchy. Now I can hear, as I was saying, Vatican Shadow and also music from before Muslim Goes that I managed to connect with it, and it's still in the middle of it all, for me at least. And so it's kind of like 25 years after he passed away, literally, uh, January 1999, like we're in February, like this happens. His best body of work on vinyl. They did a CD box of that, I think, 2 years ago as well. Um, it's kind of like closing a chapter, which I'm feeling ambivalent about, in the sense that I've been aware and around him when he was still active. Now it's archival. Now it's museum art in a way. And I'm just thinking about what is left to investigate for people who are discovering all that. Do they have something new that they will introduce me to uh, that can have that impact, that space in underground music um, world or whatever?
Don't tell me you're getting bored, Stunty.
Oh no, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm a bit anxious in a way.
You are really?
Yeah, in the sense that, um, as you said it yourself, no one right now is making political music in that manner. So
Not that
what?
I know of.
Yeah, I mean there is some, but not in a like there is a greater cause than myself kind of way. And that's definitely what this guy was doing, which you might we can think whatever we want about it, but that was true for him. And I struggle to find other artists right now who have
Mm-hmm.
anything remotely close to that kind of drive. And I think I like, I mean, it's nice the idea of having a world where there's no need for that, but we know that we are further down the spiral right now than we were when he was doing that in the, in the 90s. So
Right.
it hasn't gone in the right direction, and and it seems to me we have less and less opportunities for people to, or we have just even forget about opportunities. There are many opportunities, but there's no one taking these opportunities that I or you can uh, that we know of, which is,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like if people who share some feelings with him would be Roger Waters, that's a bit
Mm-hmm.
sad.
Stunty, I want to say, as an Israeli and
Yeah,
a Zionist, that I commend you for keeping his spirit alive and um, carrying the flag of his music. Doesn't matter what people think of. I
yeah,
personally, I like what I listen to,
yeah.
even if he didn't like my country or my, music is music. Unless it's
You know what?
define it all, or if you know what that is. It's music.
I I often watch a pirate football stream on YouTube from Haiti, uh, because they have a connection with one player for with a team I follow, and we speak. They speak in Haitian, so there is some French root in it,
Hmm.
not completely, but and that made me think that there is some West Indies of the French West Indies colonies music that have obviously a very anti-colonialism uh, meaning message even before the word colonialism existed in a way. And
Well,
you know
colonialism has always existed,
yeah,
Stunty.
yeah,
This is what I wanted to get to, is that,
yeah, but
The
the
war.
remember,
the, the
even in the
word
Bible,
yeah, yeah,
if
but
you
what I mean
War.
is that they have songs, folk songs that are anti-colonial even before the word exists, that I enjoy, fully aware that the people they point the finger at are my ancestors.
I can
Yeah.
relate.
Mm.
I
All
mean,
right.
Mm.
they traced my genes back to Renaissance Italy, and just 90, no, what is it? 45.9% of me is Tuscany Italian from the Renaissance time, and the other part of me is all Viking. So, yeah. But I've been around a bit, around the world a little bit, and I've started to see, through dance, through music, um, where people gave each other ideas, and then they would take off with those ideas. Even river dancing, if you go and you look at flamenco or different ways that they dance in Spain, and how that went into Gaul and then up into Ireland, and it's just absolutely amazing to see how the music changes. And then it came into the United States with the Scots and the Irish, and
Mm.
then we ended up with bluegrass and other types of music here. And people give each other ideas, and
Yeah, but
the
now
more
you're
we're able.
talking about an organic travel of music. Um,
Yeah,
this is not organic. Like how this young guy, yeah, I mean the only real connection he had with what was going on in the Middle East was the news program on the TV in Tory England of the 80s. That was the only connection he had. Sure, there
mhm.
was a mosque in the Manchester that he later visited, but that was because he's developed that interest for it. So the music he made is not native in a way, which is what is fascinating with it. That he manages to make a music that feels so authentic without being necessarily like folkloric.
That is
Is it-
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Because I danced with the Uyghurs in China.
Mm.
Okay, I traveled around China for 23 days and danced with those people there that are now in prison camps, unfortunately. Um, and it was amazing. I mean, the dancing was so similar. It's just, there seems to be this flow, this connective flow. But if some guy can pick that out of the air, that is really amazing. Or out of
Kelly,
bits and pieces.
Muslimgauze biography, Bryn Jones, that would be difficult because he was pretty. He was this guy who lived with his parents and kept to himself. There's very little. Like he did a few interviews. Some of them you can totally see that he went for the shock factor in the interview. Um, there's very there. He never put any of his own thoughts about the world or anything about his own life to paper, or like he did some promotion of the releases, and that's
Hmm.
it. And he did very minimal. So you'd have to go and meet his parents, who obviously we learned back then that they were barely aware of what he was doing. Yeah.
Oh man, I would have raided my kid's room. See how lucky you are, Stunty?
Yeah. All right. for those who have managed to, the few crazy people who watch this now from beginning to end or later, thank you. I hope this was we came up with a few interesting ideas or points about it. No, he didn't. And yeah, the lore continues indeed. There probably will be more releases still because his archive is. I think we kind of finished with pure unreleased material that is that is more than just anecdotal with him, but that's still a lot to investigate for people who are discovering him just in the past few years. But yeah, if you have more questions, you can leave a comment. You can like the video, and if you want to support the channel, as always, there's a link in the
So
description where you can.
load up your comment section, light it
Yeah,
up.
and I'll yeah. I probably will do my usual Friday streams, and we'll see. But I felt today I just wanted to talk a little deeper into the discography of Muslimgauze and all the ideas going around him, etc. Voila.
I'm so glad you did, Stunty. I learned something.
Well,
And I got to share a few things
hello,
too. And
Bodo.
it's always fun.
Very
I
good point
enjoy it.
that Bodo is making. Seacat Trance, a band from I don't are they from Switzerland? I'm not sure, or Germany or England, but that were like using like the Middle East trope in their music, electropop. That was not too far away from Muslimgauze in a way. Like that would be like the pop version of that, the Depeche Mode version of that. All right. Oh, wait. Uh, Winston wanted to come on. Can you link me?
Oh no, I want to link to my YouTube channel.
Okay. All right.
I'll drop. I can't drop it because I don't have a. I don't have a, admin moderator.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. This
You too. You too.
and I hope for more soon. I'll see you
I have big
wherever I
news for you
am. Yeah.
guys. Both of you. I have big news. I'm not
Okay.
telling the whole chat though.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.